What was the date you took command last year? It's almost a year now, right?
Yeah, December 20th.
So you came in just weeks after this coup attempt.
The declaration of martial law.
Sure. Well, I will call it what I call it. And you can call it the palace coup, whatever you want to call it. Declaration of martial law. I know it's a politically sensitive subject, and I know from what I read, the wounds are still quite raw in South Korea. But coming in at that time must have been an unusual time to take command. Without commenting on the politics of it, what was that like, and how did that create challenges that you perhaps didn't expect when you were spinning up to go over there?
I will tell you, it was an interesting experience from the standpoint of me recognizing and really understanding for the first time what my nation was counting on me to do as a commander of U.S. Forces Korea. I was being asked questions by people like, "Hey, what's going on over there?" And I'm like, "Hey, I'm just here to command the forces. I'm not involved in any of this stuff." But what it also showed me is that I've got to improve my ability to communicate on a variety of levels across the dime. In fact, to
diplomacy and
diplomacy, and
military economic,
intelligence, information, military economics. I've got to be able to communicate my view through a military lens on all these things. And it's not just opining on, hey, here's what I think. Nobody cares what I think. What's going on? How do you report through diplomatic channels? And oh, by the way, shortly thereafter, the sitting ambassador left Korea. And we had a charge d'affaires that was there. But the one thing that I took away from that is while democracies are messy sometimes, they work. That's what I took from all of that's gone on, whether it was acting president 1, acting president 2, acting president 3, to the current president in the Republic of Korea. The system just works.
And there's a military dimension to this, of course, is Yoon allegedly one of the things he tried to do was provoke a North Korean military incident of some sort. And so once you got in, you're looking across the DMZ, what sort of behaviors were you seeing in terms of North Korea's appetite to take advantage of that moment, or were they just kind of trying to stay quiet at that time?
I was really amazed, and I can remember remarking to my staff that I believe that KJU wants to be seen more statesman-like than not, because there wasn't. You would have thought it would have been a whole lot of talking about, hey, look at them. You see us over here? We're doing good. Look at them down there. But there was none of that. The first time we really heard any mention from them of anything was as we ramped up for my first exercise in March. But before that, it was just radio listen in silence.
That's interesting.
But as we moved toward the exercise, then it became a thing. And I thought, that's sort of like statecraft in a way. Like, you don't need to comment on something that's happening. It's happening. You can just be quiet. But the minute we ramped up for the exercise, then that's when the rhetoric started again.
This is a little sensitive to talk about, I know, so I'm not sure how much you can talk to it. But in the event of a Taiwan contingency, troops that currently belong to U.S. Forces Korea might be asked ordered to deploy towards Taiwan. How would that work? Or is this something you're training for, to the extent you can talk about this?
Yeah, I can't really talk about that, but what I can say is this, is that it's incumbent on all of us to look through our area of operations and our area of interest to understand what our boss is. I've got a boss. The Indo-Pacom commander is my boss. What he might need from me. So I've got to think sort of across domains. What do I have that could be committed to a thing? And how might I apply the capabilities under my command to assist my boss in accomplishing his mission? I think that's fair to say that.
Yeah, and it also would change, I imagine, your force protection posture quite a lot.
A lot.
You recently wrote an article on what you call an east-up map. What do you mean by that?
What that means is it takes Korea from the periphery and places it in the center by rotating a map 90 degrees. And what you have is in the sort of ordinal north, you have Japan, and then straight down from there, you have South Korea. But what it really highlights to you is if you look at this salient from Russia to the DPRK to China, what you see is the true centrality of Korea in terms of the potential to impose cost on adversaries. So in the East Sea, it makes it more clear that there's this line, this line that exists from Vladivostok down south through the East Sea, and you can see how forces in South Korea, capabilities resident in South Korea could impact that. You see in the Bohai Gulf, in the West Sea, the potential to impose cost in that area as well. And most notably, what you see is how close we are to the adversary from Korea. And a lot of times we'll talk about the first island chain, but inside that first island chain, you have the Republic of Korea that sits on the Asian continent. And you start to also be able to divine some other connections, the triangle from Tokyo to Seoul to Manila, through which 47 to 52%, depending on your favorite economist, that percentage of global trade goes through that area. And so what it also highlights is that anything that happens in that region won't happen in a vacuum. And I think it will entail everyone being involved in it. But that's also a triangle that includes our 3 mutual defense treaties in that region.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what you were saying earlier about calling North Korea the main adversary, but there's also contingencies that might involve Russia, China, right in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.